Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here, site super moderator for Avatar The Last Airbender Online.com and main host of the Avatar Online podcast. We're here today with the Avatar The Last Airbender comic review for Avatar The Last Airbender, The Search Part 3, the final part of the Search series, obviously, and fate of Zuko's mother at last revealed. But before I get into that review, one piece of core news to talk about, that being that we at last have the full schedule for the rest of Book 2. That includes basically every episode from episode 9 to episode 14 of this season. And a key thing to note would be that fixed time slot for the rest of the season. Every episode from now on out, from tomorrow out, is going to start at 8. So it means that from basically beginnings until the end of the season, we have 8 o'clock as the time slot, which is fine. It's going to help ratings definitely over the course of the season. But the breakdowns are very interesting. We have obviously the guide tomorrow night. We then have a New Spiritual Age next Friday. After that, we actually have 2 episodes, so a 1 hour premiere special for episode 11, Night of a Thousand Stars, and episode 12, Harmonic Convergence, on November the 15th, which is obviously the week after the previous one. And then 1 week later, we have another 1 hour special, that being the finale, episode 13 and 14 of Korra, which means we're going to have the season finale on November 22nd. And we're going to end Korra with 2 1 hour premieres. So, really interesting stuff there. I think the decision to have 2 1 hour premieres to end it could actually work out really well for them if they advertise it properly, that, okay, 1 hour premiere here, and the finale is going to be 1 hour premieres next week. So we could see some reasonably big numbers. They're definitely, I think, trying to get those numbers up with this conclusion to the season. Ending quicker than I expected, but I think it works out well that we waited a long time for it and we're going to get it reasonably quickly. So that's pretty nice. But as I said, I'll move into my review now of this book, Search Part 3. So there is the cover, pretty nice. Again, as usual with the cover, I wish they would do something a little bit different than just put characters on the front, because, it's been the same way since the beginning, basically. Let me just go through this. Yeah, that's the right order. So, okay, so these are all the, basically, soft cover Avatar comic releases. So as you can see, there's the Lost Adventures collection of short stories. Again, it's just a group shot of all the characters in it. That's fine for that. Then we have The Promise Part 1. Again, group shot of all the characters. Nothing really telling you what the story's about. There we have The Promise Part 2. Nothing really telling you what the story is about, other than that Zuko is separated from the others, which makes sense for the story. Part 3. More of an epic cover with Aang in the Avatar stage, but still, it's a group shot of the characters, though it's a really nice image. Search Part 1, bit more plot focused, Ursa kind of spirity in the background, where is she? And then a bit more focused on the characters, who the main characters are in the book. Part 2, Search Part 2, again group shot, a bit of a plot stuff with the spirit wolf in the background, telling you who the main characters are. And then the Search Part 3, bit, again, more focused, but it's just a shot. There's nothing really telling you what it's about. In that case, the back cover is actually really interesting in that point of view, that it kind of presents much more of what the story is actually about. And it kind of fits that this book came out the day before Halloween as well, that you have lots of kind of these kind of evil-like spirits here in the background. But yeah, let's just get into this. This is at last the conclusion to the search, the reveal that we waited 5.5 years for. What exactly happened to Zuko's mom, Ursa? Where is she? All of that is revealed in this, along with who is Zuko's actual father, and some reveals about the Mother of Faces, and so on. It reveals a lot, and overall, I'm happy with the conclusion to this story. Huge expectations definitely going into this from myself and basically every other Avatar fan, because this is a really important thing. The biggest question, arguably, since the origin of the Avatar. We got that last time round. This time we're getting this. And I was happy with the conclusion. overall, the story of the search surprised me, I think, in the end, because I didn't expect Ursa's backstory, pre-Ozai, pre the children, to be this heavily involved in the story of finding her. I didn't expect that much spirit involvement and stuff like that. I expected it to be this big epic journey where they go from place to place to place, find the clues along the way, and then eventually find her at the end, right there, happy ending. That's it. So, huge surprise when I saw the spirit focus. The fact that in the end the search was actually really small in scale, and that really it was just Hiraa and the Forgetful Valley as the only places they went to, and it was just kind of back and forth between there with character moments in there. And again, like I said about beginnings, I kind of put more emphasis in my theories on like epicness and stuff like that, and didn't think too much about the emotions of the characters. And in the end, that's what this book really plays upon: the emotions of the characters. The fact that Zuko wants to find his mother, that's an emotional journey. Ursa, in being where she is, went through an emotional journey, and is going to when they come into contact with her in this book. And then Azula is arguably the one that most badly needs to meet her mother, because her mental issues are basically caused by that bad relationship with her mother. That's why she keeps seeing visions of her mother and stuff like that. And she needs to mend that bond to, I suppose, move forward in her life. So that's the one thing I didn't expect, and what this book really delivered on, that how emotional this is, and it worked well. But that said, we did get some epic moments. There was a lot of spirit action, which was good, with the Mother of Faces, and some nice reveals. A fan favourite spirit did come into play, obviously related to Faces. I'll probably end up spoiling that over the course of this review, but it's almost so obvious, who the son of Faces is. It's not even funny, but yeah, I was happy with this book, and the fact that I can say that about a conclusion to this is great, because conclusions to these big stories that you're waiting for are always difficult to do. So many shows that I watch, I haven't been incredibly happy about the ending. Like animes like Death Note, Monster, the conclusion to the Clone Wars, I wasn't that keen on. And Avatar has actually had a good history of that. I was happy with the conclusion to the series, apart from the cliffhangers. So the fact that The Promise did stuff well, had a nice conclusion, the fact that this, I think, has a nice conclusion, actually helps make Avatar The Last Airbender's finale even better to me, so that's a huge positive. But yeah, I'll get into some specifics on this book now. So, as usual, it is the same kind of length as the other ones, roughly 72 pages, not including the ads and the kind of intro pages there. But 20 of the 72 pages are Ursa flashback, which is basically in line with the others. I think over the course of these three books, you do get about 60 pages of Ursa flashback, roughly. So you do, in the end, get two stories really by reading The Search. You get the basically complete backstory of Ursa from before meeting Ozai to basically where she is in Hiraa, and then you do get the story of Zuko's quest to find her with the rest of them, and then the flashback and the present day kind of come together really nicely, because the flashbacks are placed kind of really well in the stories in terms of being well written, in that the flashbacks aren't just like thrown in there wherever there's a break in the present day story. They're actually linked in really nicely to specific points in the present day story where they kind of work out well together. And so you're coming to the conclusion, you're coming to the point where Ursa makes the decision to basically go missing at the same time as the others are kind of finding her. So they find her basically as you find out how she came to be there, and it's just this really nice kind of build up over the course of the book. And I think that's what this series has done really well. Utilized a lot of flashback, but not just telling it as one giant thing in a row. Like over the course of the story, we were told this flashback thing, and that was done really well. And the flashbacks are really emotional, and I think this is where Gene Yang really kind of stands out as a writer in this book. He stood out as a writer in part 2 because of like great continuity moments, setting up mysteries and like setting up part 3 really well. What stands out in this book, part 3, is that he writes these emotional scenes of Ursa making that decision to basically go missing, why they can't find her, really well, because basically she's presented with the opportunity to get a new face. And she and obviously Norin, who's revealed to be Ikem, I don't think it's really that much of a spoiler at this point, so that's why I'm saying it. They just have this kind of talk where there's so much of her past life that she wants to forget. She wants to forget about Ozai because of the way that marriage came about and the way he's obviously treated some of the kids and stuff like that. She never really wanted that. She wants to forget a lot about life in the palace, the whole being spied on, constantly monitored by Ozai, and obviously how she came to be banished and stuff like that. But the one thing she doesn't want to forget is her kids. Now, she doesn't specifically say Zuko, she doesn't specifically say Azula, she just says kids, so she's not showing any favourites at this point in time. And then it's just presented that, like, Ikem just says that, okay, but would you really want to live the rest of your life kind of knowing that you're never going to be able to see those kids again and always having that kind of pain of that? Or would you like to start again and not have that and actually have some happiness in your life? And it just presents the kind of harsh realities of the decision that she has to make here. Like, should she forget her kids, which are like something that like are basically the most important part of her life, but also present some of the most like bad pain in her life at this point in time, because as far as she knows, the war is going on at this point when she makes this decision. She's probably never going to get the chance to see them again, or at the very least be in their lives. And the one kind of positive she makes for getting a new face and a new life would be that would allow her to maybe see them again, but never be involved in their lives, which Ikem points out that would maybe be worse than like as it is now, not being able to see them. And it's just handled really well, I think, and that it's this decision that like really kind of harsh, like forgetting about your own kids and stuff like that. But they present it in a way where you understand both sides of it. Like, she makes the decision to ultimately forget about them, but it's emotional. She calls herself horrible for doing it. But you see that she's been through so much that she kind of needs some happiness in her life, and finally being able to be with Ikem again is something she needs. And I just love the way it was presented, in that I know some people will probably think Ursa's terrible for doing it, and to some extent, yeah, she is, but there's also a lot of emotion behind that, and it's way too easy to just instantly call her a terrible mother for doing so, when like there's a lot you have to keep her emotions into account as well. But like even the other characters like are really interesting. Like Zuko in this book, you come to the conclusion really that he doesn't need to see his mother as much as Azula does. He just wants to, and you understand that because obviously he got on better with his mother than his father, but he's developed without his mother. He's in the promise developed into being the leader that he needs to be. In this book, he's kind of developed kind of emotionally a bit, because when he eventually sees Ursa, he sees her with this happy life, and he almost doesn't want to involve himself again because it could possibly ruin that life that she's created for herself. He's just happy to know that she's happy and still alive and stuff like that. And he eventually does introduce himself, but the fact that he initially didn't want to was really kind of mature from Zuko, and that I could be ruining this family's life here if I reintroduce myself to them, but that would be kind of like a lie and stuff like that, so it happens. And then it's presented that Azula does need to be with have some conversation with her mother. It ultimately leads to like a lot of emotions, and Azula's story basically just ends with her running away. It's probably one of my negatives about the book, in that her story just ends kind of in midair. It doesn't specifically set up anything, though something's clearly going to come back to where Azula's gone and stuff like that. But there's some scenes in here where like you really get into Azula's mind, but it really does present that, like, she wasn't the main character in this book, Ursa was. This book is about the search for Zuko's mother, and much of the family kind of really healing, coming back together, is going to happen later on. And I think that's the important thing to note, that this is called the search, not the reunion. Um, Aang's main role in this book is mainly with, as the kind of back cover says, parlaying with the Mother of Faces. We really see him take his role as the bridge between the two worlds on here, and really just kind of play that kind of really balanced role here, that he knows that you need to respect the spirit, but he also knows that, like, humans have emotions, and as much as the spirits are calling as much as the spirits are calling, like, all humans selfish, Mother of Faces does that. We saw basically every spirit in the beginnings episodes say that. Aang is asking the Mother of Faces for multiple favors to help his friends, which is not selfish. And it's as if the spirit doesn't realize that you can care about people, and all she sees is that the humans are asking the spirit for some help, and they're pathetic because of this. But then, obviously, the Mother of Faces, she has a son, and her son has made many mistakes that have resulted in some of the stuff that has happened to people, Rafa included. And so this is obviously pointed out to her, and she immediately makes that right. She gives that second favor that she wasn't going to give initially, because she has to make amends for what her son did. And it really makes the Mother of Faces this kind of more human-like spirit, in that, as far as we know, this is the first time any spirit has had a kind of son. I don't know if it's like an actual son or just they calls him son or whatever. But just the fact that they presented this, that this mother feels responsible for what her son has done and makes amends for that, really kind of like shows her to be a little bit of a hypocrite when she's kind of like accusing them of being selfish for, like, asking for, like, help for someone else and stuff like that. And it really is all about relationships. The Mother of Faces and her son, the Zuko, Azula, Ursa, Zuko, Ursa, Azula, and even like a Misu and Rafa and Katara, Sokka. They're all these relationships, whether they be mother and son daughter or sibling relationships, and that's what this book is really all about when you kind of come down to it. It's all about kind of healing some of these relationships, getting people back together, and it works out really well. The scenes where the way the spirit and Aang conversation is written is also a really good highlight of Jin and Yang's kind of work at this point in time. Who Zuko's father actually is revealed, and I think people will be happy with what happens, and I think you can basically tell what it is just by me saying that. So yeah, overall this is a really good book. You know, there are, like, little bits of negatives, like I think the ending maybe could have used a page or two extra just to kind of give you a little bit of a happy ending to this story, as opposed to leaving a lot open to be explored next time we come back to Zuko and everyone else. Azula's story did end in mid-air a bit, but they definitely set up a little bit of stuff with her and Ursa. But yeah, there's no real setup for the rift, really. It just, you go to the final page and then you see, yep, the rift. Aang uncovers a terrible secret in the Rift Part 1. So there's that. But as a series, it's very good. I'll be reviewing this in full, like, even more detailed kind of spoiler discussions on the podcast on Sunday. And obviously there'll be the guide, Korra Roundtable on Saturday, I believe. So look out for those on the site, avatarthelastarbenderonline.com. But thanks for watching this review of The Search Part 3, and bye.